Hello, my ceramic darlings. So here's my tile drawing. I've already established the background and the midground, and now I need to work on the foreground. So here's what I have so far. I'm going to focus on this section here. You use the clay that came with your tile. We are using a very specific clay body for this tile project that has less grog in it. So use the clay I gave you. Don't use the clay from your giant clay bag. To slip and score, you can use vinegar and water, and that'll help the clay adhere. So I'm just using a small tool to score, and I'm dipping that tool in the vinegar water. And I'm working from the background towards the foreground. So start as far back in the picture plane as you can and work towards the front. That way you don't smash your work and try to do the foreground first, and then you end up smashing it trying to get behind it. Make sure you add small bits of clay or little bits of coils, not large flat chunks that will trap air and lead to explosions. You can see as I'm attaching these, I'm working in one direction so that the air is being chased out from the back. You can see I'm starting at the top and I'm working in one direction to squeeze any air bubbles out. And then you can start using that silicone tip tool. If you don't have one, a wooden tip tool is just fine. But this will help you get into all those cracks and crevices where your fingers can't reach. As I time lapse through this video is about 9 minutes long, basically. However, in reality, this took about 40 minutes to do. So budget your time. Make sure you have a good hour to dedicate to working on the foreground of your tile so that you have enough time. If you're working with certain imagery, non-animate objects like succulents or a pattern or something along those lines, trying to build in a sense of movement can be a little difficult. So what I'm doing here is I'm working from the background and layering up, placing one form on top of another to create a sense of depth and space. And if you look at these tendrils, you can see that they're kind of flowing. They feel like this one is curving around, giving a sense of movement. And this next one will be like a little curly Q, furthering that idea of movement, of capturing movement in a static tile. And bring that curly Q right in the front. That is more than halfway out of the picture plane, really satisfying that idea of high relief. Remember from your slideshow, your lecture slideshow, where I talk about the difference between high relief and low relief. With high relief, more than 50% of the figure is coming out into space, coming out towards the viewer. And I'm just getting creative and I'm deviating from my original drawing. You sometimes have to look at what's happening in front of you as an artist and make decisions, and don't just look at that sketch that you did. You might have to change up your design a little bit. Try to make sure you're maintaining the integrity of your border as well as you're working. And it's easy to kind of lose the border in all the layers that you're building up, especially along the edges. But later on, you're going to do a sgraffitoed surface on your border. So you want to kind of make sure you keep it that 3/4 of an inch or an inch all the way around, whatever you decided. So I'm doing a lot of time lapse, and I know that's not always satisfactory for you guys. You want to see exactly what I'm doing. But in the essence of time, you can see I'm going to work on the right hand side of the picture plane here of my composition. And I'm really focusing on a sense of layering. You can create little small three-dimensional pieces to really work on pulling that foreground out further into space, further towards the viewer. You can see these are little peaked. I'm only attaching the bottom section of each one of these little petals so that the petals are kind of curving towards the viewer ever so slightly. You know, you're kind of creating an illusion of space. So this is still a fairly flat tile, but you want to kind of build up that space so it's coming towards you. And just because you're working in high relief at this point doesn't mean that you can't go back and start carving back the midground or the background even further. You have to adjust your tile as you work so that you can kind of build that space and that illusion of space. So here I'm just finishing up trying to place those petals on the center figure on my picture plane. And again, you know, building in a sense of movement, I'm trying to put in as many curved lines as possible, even though these are not moving. The implied movement here is following those lines in a curved fashion. My last little bit is working on the flowers of my cactus. And after I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and probably add some texture both to the cactus flowers and maybe the zebra cactus in the background on the left side. I might even add a little bit of, I don't know, some spines or something on my cactus to give it a little bit more dynamism. Dynamism, is that a word? I don't even know at this point. Hope you guys are well.